So late last June, Republican Senators Ron Johnson of Wisconsin and Chuck Grassley of Iowa wrote to Attorney General Merrick Garland asking for a clarification about the role Justice Department official Susan Hennessy would play in special counsel John Durham's investigation of the Trump-Russia hoax. Before being hired by the DOJ, I should say, in June of 2021, Hennessy was best known for giving scathing anti-Trump commentary during frequent CNN guest appearances. In December 2020, she commented directly on the investigation via Twitter. In a since deleted tweet, she said, quote, "Durham has made abundantly clear that in a year and a half, he hasn't come up with anything. I guess this kind of partisan silliness has become characteristic of Barr's legacy, but unclear to me why Durham would want to go along with it," end quote. Johnson and Grassley were worried that Hennessy, in her new position in the DOJ's National Security Division, could obstruct or unduly influence the Durham investigation. They have yet to receive a straight answer from Garland on the matter. And so on Friday, legal watchdog group Judicial Watch filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit against the Department of Justice seeking communications records between Durham and Garland and budget records related to the investigation. Joining us now to discuss is the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Thanks for being here tonight, Tom.
Hey, good to be with you, Karen. Thanks for having me.
Great. So what do you hope to uncover from some of those records you've requested through FOIA?
Just basic accountability. Durham is special counsel. No one seems to be asking what he's been doing for the last several years. I mean, he was appointed initially by Barr to begin investigating this back in 2019, appointed as special counsel the end of 2020. And he's had 3 indictments, 2 of which are pretty darn serious, targeting Clinton, one, an FBI lawyer that ended in a plea agreement. But, 3 indictments over the course of 3 years isn't all that great. And so that's why we're asking questions about his budget. And going back to the first part of your story, is one of the reasons things are taking forever and a day is because of internal foot dragging by the Justice Department? I don't know, but it's a question worth asking, especially given some of the hostility of key staff like Hennessy to Mr. Durham, which led us to ask questions about what Garland was doing, because he has direct responsibility for supervising Mr. Durham, and we want to know what's happening here. You may recall separately that Durham has complained, however indirectly, about how the IG of the Justice Department was hiding information from him and hiding evidence from him. So there may be something here.
There definitely probably most likely is. I mean, given the track record on what we saw, the kinds of people who were heading up the Clinton and the Trump investigations heading into the 2016 election, we saw exactly this, a very similar thing going on. And I know you guys doing excellent work at Judicial Watch are no stranger to obstruction, and a lack of transparency, to put it mildly, from the DOJ. And if I understand things correctly, the initial FOIA request was sent in August of last year for some of these documents. You guys haven't heard back, hence the lawsuit now for them. Have the DOJ given you any reason as to why they haven't coughed up some of these documents, or are they just giving the cold shoulder and ignoring?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a good reason. We wouldn't have sued. I mean, we don't sue unless we really have to. I mean, we don't like to sue if the documents are coming. Sometimes they're not as quick. They don't come as quickly as the law requires, but we're getting them, so we don't sue. And I think one of the frustrating things about our work is that one of the worst violators of FOIA law is the agency charged with enforcing the rule of law for the federal government, which is the Justice Department. And in this case, they're hiding documents about its own operations. These are simple requests. How many email communications could there be between, for instance, Attorney General Garland and Durham? My guess is not that many. So what's the holdup? And the same thing goes for budget operation documents, budget documents. This is the stuff they should have in a file somewhere. Yet, you would think we're asking for the keys to the kingdom, and maybe we are asking the wrong questions in terms of government accountability from the Justice Department's perspective. But I tell you, when you break the law in responding to to lawful requests for government documents, in my experience, it suggests they have something to hide.
And we, the people, obviously have a right to know this. And while you're talking about Susan Hennessy, it reminds me of a similar situation brought up by my friend Ben Weingarten at the Federalist and Real Clear Investigations. And he'll talk about how Jake Sullivan, who's also implicated in a lot of the documents that Durham's investigation is so far dredged up. I mean, Jake Sullivan, his wife, works with Merrick Garland. She also helps to oversee some of the budget for Durham's investigation because of her work with Merrick Garland and the DOJ. Do you think that there is, outside of Hennessy, do you think that you may expand some of your scope into looking into, say, Jake Sullivan's wife, or to who knows how many other casts of characters are behind the scenes trying to hold things up?
Well, those are good FOIA ideas, Kara. Maybe we'll follow up on them. You raise a bigger issue that, there are people in the Biden administration who are implicated by the Durham investigation or what the Durham investigation's uncovered. And we know, for instance, that the Russiagate smear, specifically that the version of it that the Trump people somehow had a computer network connection with the Russians. It was a big lie. It was a big lie. They knew it was a lie. And who was promoting this big lie? Someone responsible for someone in one of the most sensitive positions in the White House right now, Jake Sullivan, Hillary Clinton's former a State Department colleague and then campaign advisor. So he was lying about the Russians then. Why should we trust him now? I mean, that's the problem with government corruption, is that, we've got these sensitive issues going on. We have a confrontation, an historic confrontation with Russia potentially. And I don't know about you, but I don't trust these folks at the helm to fairly negotiate these dangerous waters because of their personal corruption issues.
I'm exactly right there with you. That's been perhaps my biggest grief so far with all of this going down between Ukraine and Russia. And for those who seem okay with getting NATO and the U.S. therefore into war with Russia, I'm thinking, look at the kind of people who would be at the helm of the U.S. response, as you're saying, the Bidens and all the rest of them. And I think that is just a big no-go, at least for me. So before I let you go tonight, so you filed this lawsuit. Do we know what's coming next? Any dates perhaps to look forward to on this?
I don't know. Who knows? Sometimes they pretend we didn't file the lawsuit and give us documents the day after we file it. But, I suspect there's going to be a fight here for some of these documents. But the budget documents aren't a state secret. So hopefully we get those.
Well, Tom, keep up the great work. And thank you so much for dropping by tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kara.